Hipster racism. In this section, we will be defining 4 types of modern racist paradigms: hipster racism, ironic racism, hipster sexism, and nipster racism. These terms are open for interpretation, and we will use these terms as a means to create a platform for dialogue and discussion. We know that human behavior cannot be lumped into one archetype or stereotype. Again, these are points of discussion. So let us proceed. Hipster racism. Hipster racism, a term coined around 2006 in an article by Carmen van Kerkhove, is described as the use of irony and satire to mask racism. It is the use of blatantly racist comments in an attempt to be controversial and edgy. Its irony is established in a somewhat post-racial belief that blatant expressions of genuine racism are no longer taken seriously and are an outdated way of thinking, thereby making the use of such overt expressions satiric. In some cases, hipster racism can be seen as the appropriation of cultural artifacts by hipsters. Ironic racism. Despite its ironic intent and context, hipster racism still appears to perpetuate prejudicial racial ideologies. The difference between more harsh forms of prejudice is that this style of speech seems appropriate and relevant, ingrained in the belief that it does no real harm. Those who exhibit hipster racist tendencies seek to escape accusations of racist behavior on the grounds that they were only joking. Hipster sexism. Hipster sexism, also known as liberal sexism and ironic sexism, is defined by Alyssa Quart in New York Magazine as the objectification of women, but in a manner that uses mockery, quotation marks, and paradox. Hipster sexism involves the use of irony in a satirical manner to subjugate women. It is a form of self-aware sexism that is deemed acceptable given that perpetrators are conscious of the inherent sexism and objectification of women in whatever action or statement is being carried out by them. It is rooted in the idea that sexism is an outdated and archaic institution which people do not engage in anymore, thereby making the demonstration of sexism seem satirical and ironic. Nipster racism. Nipster is a slang term used in Germany to refer to young neo-Nazis who embrace aspects of hipster culture. Historically, German neo-Nazis have promoted an ultra-masculine and extreme right-wing image, preferring short hair, violent imagery, and combat gear, in keeping with the white power skinhead, casual, or gabber subcultures, while rejecting most modern pop culture. Recently, this has begun to change, with young nipsters embracing causes such as animal rights and environmentalism, alongside historically far-right positions, including anti-immigration views. Nipsters, rather than rejecting modern pop culture, seek instead to hijack it to promote neo-Nazi ideals. This has also been seen in the New Right and national anarchism movements. The top 7 infractions hipsters make. We will also provide examples for each transgression. Number 1. I am so witty. Number 2. Recreational slumming. Number 3. The majestic power of the N-word. Number 4. The genuine interest in another culture. Number 5. Don't white people suck. Number 6. But it was a joke. Number 7. But we have a black president. 1. I'm so witty. One of the problems that people who have been exposed to formal education have is that they confuse having exposure to something with the right to critique or point out flaws in a belief system or set of behaviours. This limited exposure and the following critique places them in a position that makes their observations feel witty or unique, when in fact the subordinate and target groups live lives listening to these tired, trite observations. Here are a few examples of this concept. I have black friends. I am practically black myself. My tan is almost as dark as yours. Are you really Mexican? Are you a dot or a feather Indian? 2. Recreational slumming. The ability to relate is important. However, the ability to choose to relate or not is reserved for the affluent and the dominant group. Those who are typically the targets of oppression have to be flexible and culturally fluent in such a way to be prepared to interact with the dominant culture at any point, in any context, at any time. Dominant culture members decide when and where they show up, and how their showing up benefits them. Here are a few examples of this concept. Look, I have been on mission trips to Costa Rica, Guatemala, and Indian reservations. The parties in the hood are so fun. I can't come over for a sleepover, but come to my house anytime. Goodwill? No, I got this at a consignment shop. Bro, when you come over, just pull up your pants a little. My dad hates that. 3. The majestic power of the N-word. When people have failed to realize the strength of their own culture, they resent those who seem to have a recognition of this value. The intergroup names that people give each other is a tool of both inclusion and exclusion, typically because there was a time when they were not included as part of the dominant society. When people have been forced to or have freely given up their birthright or culture, their children and grandchildren yearn for that connection to the land, to the place, and to the people. They feel the loss when they see that other peoples have what they have lost. Here are some examples of this concept. Why do you get to say it and I don't? The rapper Fawn Next said it, I could say it. If you don't give the word power, it won't have any. I didn't mean you. I am saying it to take the sting out of the word. Let's flip that ugly word and make it beautiful. 4. So I'm not allowed to have a genuine interest in another culture. It is important to understand what culture is and why it is important. Simply put, culture is the sum total of artifacts and values shared by a group of people and their ability to adapt to the geographic place, governmental systems, use of space, and concepts of time. Artifacts are used as a physical representation of the values that a culture holds. When the artifact is disconnected from its value system, it becomes a stereotype, and its usage outside the context could be seen as bigoted, no empathy for the value, prejudice, without thought, and discriminatory, try to keep people subordinate. Here are a few examples of this concept. I feel that it's my right to wear an Indian headdress if I want to. I wear this in honor of their culture. Black people love that mascot too, and they're not racist. It has been like this for years, so get over it. 5. God, don't white people suck? Can you hate your own body? Yes, but how productive is that? Being small and operating with guilt and shame is not helpful or motivating. False humility does not serve to change the dynamics either of individual or structural systems of oppression. The act of using your power and influence as a tool to interpret or dismantle systems makes change possible. An ally is something that other people call you because they see your actions. Here are a few examples of this concept. I hate white people. They messed it up for everybody. Check out that redneck. Dude, my hybrid Audi has got to be at least 5 years old before I sport it. I am oppressed too. Ever heard of reverse discrimination? 6. But it's a joke. It is clear that there are many hilarious professionals that make a living helping us to examine broad irony in our human behavior. Often in our interpersonal relationships, humor is used to mask discomfort, our lack of knowledge, or ability to relate, using what we think is a universally accepted way of connecting. Important to note is that there is a difference between laughing with someone and laughing at someone. One builds our relationship, and the other is designed to crush the spirit. Here are a few examples of this concept. Girl, you are too sensitive. You got casinos now, chill. Man, welfare is your reparations. If you can't take a joke, it's your loss. It would be racist of me not to make fun of you. 7. Yeah, but we have a black president. This paradigm has a major flaw, which is that it presumes the high achievement of members of a target group has raised the access and general living standards for the whole group. It assumes that the token, chosen, or elected individual's success is a marker for the arrival of the entire group. This is typically only applied to targeted groups of a system of oppression, and rarely applied to the dominant group. Here are a few examples of this concept. What is your problem? Everybody gets treated that way. You are not like others from your group. You have more opportunities than I do. He must have done something. Cops don't just do that. Your people are cool, but those immigrants aren't. Here is a simple reminder when dealing with these types of comments. It is important to ask questions that allow people to poke holes in their own assumptions. If you keep silent, you are affirming their misguided paradigms. Encourage the person you are dealing with to be thoughtful. It serves no one when people operate from a place of guilt and shame. At the same time, false generosity, smugness, and self-serving pride are just as damaging. Using humility, listening to understand, and looking for teachable moments will allow you to reach them in ways lectures and embarrassment never will.